Two reasons. One, there has been a sort of a new leadership. There hasn't been a sort of new leadership. There has been a new leadership. And under that leadership, the process of putting the new cabinet members in place has been quite trying, and I would call it actual bullying. I put in a formal complaint to the Liberal Democrat HQ, and that's now properly being taken forward. So that has been a very unpleasant experience. On top of that, I have been committed to the climate emergency for many years. I really recognise the importance of change in our society to make sure that we mitigate against what is about to happen. And one of the small things that local councils can do actually are really based only on transport. And the North Road bus gate was one of those small things that this council could do right now, today, and they have kicked that down the line. They're going to call a citizens' assembly rather than just do it. And for me, that went against all of my principles.
Yeah, the Lib Dems have said that the environment is the number one thing. They were elected, it was part of their manifesto. They are going to clean up Bath. Wouldn't you be more effective staying within the party and fighting within it?
That's a very good question, and normally I would say yes, but the way that they are now programming how they do things is to make sure that people within the group stay quiet and that there's no criticism. I was recently in a scrutiny meeting, and I was told that I was not liked about how I was speaking and asking questions of cabinet members who should be on top of their brief. So if you can't even speak at a scrutiny meeting and ask very reasonable questions about what they're doing and how they're doing, then you're being closed down. So it was quite obvious that the group want to close me down and don't like the questions that I would be asking.
Some people are going to say this is just sour grapes because you were kicked out of the cabinet.
Quite, and happy to take that criticism. They put in a process that didn't allow me to take part properly, and that was unfair. If they had done a proper process, very happy to make this sour grapes, but it wasn't about that. It was about making sure that the right people they wanted were in the room who could control things, and that's not the way to run a party, and that wasn't what I was led to believe the Liberal Democrats were about, which was about transparency and fairness and having a voice.
Do you not feel, though, Jo, that you are letting down the people who voted you in as a Lib Dem? I mean, they are, or were, Lib Dem supporters.
Some of them were. I spent a lot of time canvassing. I probably put my hand up to being the number one canvasser during 2019. I certainly know I knocked on every door in Lambridge and spoke to most people. So I know from standing on the doorstep what people value. I was always very honest that I had previously been a Green Party member, that I had been approached by 3 political parties to stand, and I thought the best chance of making change was with the Liberal Democrats. I recognised I could have won as a Green. The previous councillor, Lynn Patterson, had been Green, and there's a lot of people in this ward who vote Green. And since all of my statement to council in April, a lot of people have come up to me and said, please stand and be a Green, go back and do that. So if I'm being made to be quiet within the Liberal Democrats, I have no voice. The best way to support my community is to have a voice and to make sure that I can and say what I like that is the most appropriate thing to say, that actually challenges the local council to do the right thing and to make the right changes. And I think the only way I can do that is by being a Green Party member.
Joanna, is being a Green Party member going to change the way you represent the people of Lambridge Ward?
I hope it doesn't change the way I represent the people. I've always spoken out on issues that are important locally and how they then across the city and the wider geographical area. How we work as a community at a local level, at a regional level and at a national level is how we're going to deal with the climate emergency. And to just be in a pocket saying, well, this is my little fiefdom and I don't need to think about anybody else is not the way forward. And that is what essentially was happening under the Liberal Democrats. Ward members were concerned about being voted in again so that they would not make tough decisions locally. We are going to have to make lots of tough decisions locally to help everybody at a regional and a national and an international level.
Do you intend standing for re-election? Do we have local elections, in 2 years' time?
In 2 years' time, in 2023, yes. I very much intend to stand in 2023, and I would hope in the next 2 years we've got a good contingent of Green members to take forward that vote. We've done very well in Bristol, and I hope the learning that they've made in Bristol we can bring into Bath and North East Somerset and win seats here.
And do you think that's possible in Bath?
I really do. There's a huge Green vote in this city, particularly, and I also think in North East Somerset. There are a lot of people who recognise that we have to change how we do things, and politics is one way to do that.
Finally, I must make the point that as far as Lambridge ward is concerned, you are but one of 2 councillors representing Lambridge. Rob Appleyard, of course, is a Lib Dem, was a fellow Lib Dem. Is this going to embarrass him?
Rob and I have a very good relationship, and I have no doubt that he will support me in this decision. He was one of the organisers of the motion for the climate emergency under the previous administration with Mark Shelford, and he knows how to work cross-party. So I have no doubt that he and I will continue to work well and support the ward of Lambridge.
How are you feeling about tonight? At the end of today, you're going to stand up and make your announcement. How are you feeling about that?
I'm feeling nervous. It's not a place I would have chosen to have put myself in, but the circumstances are where we are, so you have to face the world that you live in.
It's not exactly going to dent the Lib Dem majority, is it?
Not at all, and if anything, they can do an awful lot to destroy me, and I have to be quite honest about that. It's highly likely they will take me off all the committees I'm on. I will no longer be a group because I'll be one Green Party member, and that gives me very little ability to have any kind of influence or power. So I do hope that they treat this well and they use the opportunity of my Green voice being one that will champion what they are saying are their causes rather than treat me any worse than they already have.